Hello and welcome to the Beat Cancer Answer, brought to you by BeatCancer.Org, the Center for Advancement in Cancer Education. We believe that 90% of all cancers could be eliminated through environmental and lifestyle choices alone, and science agrees. Unfortunately, most people don't know it, so we provide the education that can help you prevent, cope with, and beat cancer through diet, lifestyle, and other immune-boosting approaches. On every podcast, we will feature an expert who can teach us how to become part of that 90% who could prevent getting diagnosed with cancer. If you already have cancer, we have empowering information for you too. Over the past 35 years, we have helped thousands of cancer patients get back into the driver's seat when it comes to their personal journey of healing cancer and preventing future reoccurrence. Listen now as BeatCancer.Org Community Outreach Director Debbie Nicholson interviews Avinoam Lerner on the power of the mind as your greatest ally in cancer recovery.
Hello, my name is Debbie Nicholson. I am the Director of Community Outreach for BeatCancer. I am also a board-certified health coach and personal trainer, an advocate of healing the body through nature and our own innate abilities. I have the honor today of speaking with Avinoam Lerner. Avinoam is an author, innovator, and practitioner in the field of complementary medicine, specializing in cancer recovery. His work highlights the multidimensional nature of illness and the need to treat it not only on the level of the body, but also on the level of the mind. His guiding belief is that for true and lasting recovery, we must transcend the mechanistic reductionistic view of disease and recognize that it's a whole person event. At his Boston practice, Avinoam works with patients in all stages to strengthen their body's innate immune response, to increase resilience and enhance their outlook and attitude toward a favorable outcome. So welcome.
Thank you so much. Pleasure to be here.
Very great to be doing this talk today. And it's very exciting to be talking about healing from a mind-body perspective. I saw on your website that you believe a person's state of mind is their greatest ally in the recovery process.
Yes.
So explain how you engage the mind in healing. How do you describe what you do?
Okay. So as you mentioned, I specialize in cancer care and cancer recovery, and really my work is designed to help patients mobilize their mind or their inner resources to strengthen their body's innate capacity to defend against and recover from cancer. In other words, boost the immune function, and I'll explain how that is done in a moment, but also not just become more resilient physically, but become more resilient emotionally and mentally, and at certain points with certain people, even spiritually. So this work is really designed to address who we are, the person within the physical body, the person within the machine, and alleviate, resolve, address some of the mental and emotional and psychological patterns that inhibit or define our experience. And we all have them. We have grown up in a world that isn't perfect, but have been taught all kinds of things, but people who had the best intention, but may have not known exactly how to teach or didn't have the right information. And that affected the way we have come to believe about ourselves, our place in the world, how this world functions with us in it. And so all of these thought patterns, beliefs, and ideas that we have about ourselves define who we are and influence the working of the biological mechanisms, because the body and the mind are an integrated system, and therefore you cannot have a sad thought without having a physical reaction to it, and you can't really hurt your pinky without having an emotional reaction to it. So this is all kind of mashed together, but the idea is that while your medical team or the medical team of patients really do everything in their power to mend their body, it is really up to us because to take care of ourselves, because there's more to cancer than just what happens within the physical body. Illness affects us in many more ways than just poor physical health. And so healing, if we talk about healing, healing requires much more than just what happens within the realm of your doctor visits. It requires doing so much more than just visiting your doctor, as doing these certain procedures, taking these certain medications.
Yeah, especially with cancer, there's such an immense emotional aspect to cancer and how that affects the immune system. So how does your work help cancer patients to recover in a better way?
Sure. So we know from the scientific field of study called psychoneuroimmunology, that certain states of mind, mindsets such as stress, such as loss, such as trauma, such as fear, they inhibit the functioning of the immune system. They depress the ability of the immune system to really function at its best. And so we are talking essentially, when we're talking about non-physical aspects of cancer, we talk about suffering. And suffering, mainly with regard to cancer, mainly stem from what happens when a patient reflects upon the diagnosis about what it means to be now with cancer rather than the actual treatment itself. So there's tremendous amount of suffering that comes with the idea of cancer and what we believe and perceive it to be. And so this work allows patients to kind of enter the realm of the mind using a particular method in hypnosis or hypnotherapy called regression to cause. And so we use hypnosis as a vehicle for transformation, for engaging the mind. And once we kind of are in the realm of the mind, we can have the mind go back and forth along the timeline of one's life and identify situation, events, moments in times that the mind believe are relevant to the birth of certain thought patterns that is limiting, destructive, inhibiting in any way. So once the mind identifies these patterns, their point of origin, what we call the initial sensitizing event, it is possible for us, for the adult, to relive that moment. And by reliving this moment, using their current skills and abilities, emotional capacities, which were not available when we were kids, using those skills and abilities and mechanisms, we can now re-perceive that event in a different way and come to a different decision about what that particular event, that particular situation has meant to us. And when we do that, the new perception override the previous old one, which is most of the time distorted and incorrect. And when we do that, these patterns, these emotional patterns, thought patterns, we kind of unchain them, we break the chain, and we set the mind free from being attached to these patterns. The end result is a sense of relief. So these patterns that cause stress no longer linger, no longer grab our attention, and no longer have any real estate in the mind.
So it allows healing to progress. So even if someone has a somewhat positive attitude to their diagnosis, they could still have things from the past that are a root cause that may need to be uncovered.
Correct. So just to backtrack a little bit and kind of give a wider view of the mind isn't just a one box where everything happens. There's two main components, one called the conscious mind, the other called the subconscious mind. And conscious mind, I mean the part of the mind that you listen to me right now, listeners are using to listen to this podcast right now. This is the conscious mind. It has a certain job description. It analyzes, criticizes, evaluates information in a very logical way. And that part of the mind is just a very small part of it. The bigger part of the mind, if we can kind of call it this way, is the subconscious mind, which is really the storehouse of our information and knowledge, where everything that ever happened to us is stored. Every situation or event has been recorded and stored right there. So our beliefs are there, our perceptions are there, everything we know. And so what we want to do is really utilize our ability to kind of access the subconscious mind to clear these patterns and allow the mind to kind of to put it in a way that isn't too dry, erase, if you will, the previous ideas that affected us, and so that in this way the immune system can be revived and the body's ability to bounce back, to cope, to thrive again is restored. Does that?
That is fascinating. Yes. Thank you for explaining that. So that mind-body connection is so important for people facing cancer.
The mind-body connection is essential because there's more to cancer than just what happens within the body. There's more to us. We are just more than flesh. And,
right.
And so we have to, if you move away, and in the introduction you mentioned that my guiding belief is that we have to transcend the mechanistic approach to illness. Illness isn't just a failure of one particular organ, one particular part of the body. Illness is really a whole person event. It affects every part of us and every part of our lives. So we have to provide remedy on each of these levels of our being. And just treating the physical aspect of cancer has a very peculiar side effect, which many of the listeners can relate to. It separates, or it makes us believe that we are separated from our illness, that the cancer patient has very little to do with the cancer. And of course, we know this not to be true because it has everything to do with who we are. But separating the cancer patient from the cancer, it simply means it's viewing illness from a very narrow lens. It's if you're kind of looking at a baseball game through a hole in a fence, you're just seeing a certain slice of the action on the field. And in truth, there is action on either side. And so you really have to kind of zoom out and look at illness in a greater context, in a context of a whole person. And then you have to provide remedy to the emotional realm, the mental realm, and the spiritual realm, so that you treat the whole patient, you engage the mind, and in doing so, you ensure that you can get better medical results. Because now the mind, the person, what the person believes about treatment is aligned with the goal of treatment, which is to heal. And then there's no distraction. It's just treatment can be more readily embraced by the patient, and the effect can be the outcome, that is, can be much more improved.
That's really fascinating. And you don't really see a lot of services to help people with the emotional aspects and to delve into this part of it. It's mostly focused on receiving treatment for the body, and that doesn't empower the patient to be included in their own health. So that's really wonderful. How does your treatment work with mainstream medical treatment?
Well, let's just before we go how it works, it's not medicine's kind of fault in a way that they didn't go in that route. They simply, for the longest time, didn't have a rational explanation of how by working through the mind, which is the non-physical part of who we are, we can actually affect an organic disease like cancer. They didn't have that rational explanation. Luckily, nowadays, we have the psychoneuroimmunology field of study that not only explained things in theoretical ways, but actually was able to map the immunological process from beginning to end. And so we know how the non-physical part of ourselves can affect the body, influence and intervene with biological processes. The second part of it, that medicine didn't or was not aware of an effective enough method to engage the mind. And luckily, through the advancement in the field of hypnotherapy, we have that obstacle resolved. So now there's really no reason not to go there. It's just a matter of whether or not it fit their model of treatment. And unfortunately, it does not. So what they offer is very limited in terms of psychosocial support, but
yes,
they would not necessarily go where I go. And it's unfortunate, but hopefully through the work that you do with this podcast and creating more awareness, more and more people will know that there's quite a lot that they can do, that it's not lost. Science, medicine in and of itself is not written and done story. And there's more beyond the realm of medicine that each patient, each person can do for themselves. I know.
Do you want to talk about some of those ways? There's the hypnotherapy that you use. I saw there's EFT, guided imagery. There's different things that you do.
Well, there's different things that I offer, but they're part of this service. So if a person comes to work in my office here in Boston, then I would work with a particular protocol with hypnotherapy to address specifically the aspect of immune function. So in order, and I call it the immune enhancement boot camp, and that is a particular service that I can only kind of work with in the office. But online, as I work with many patients, I offer a variety of services from that range from emotional freedom technique, which is a fantastic technique for self-care, to imagery, to other methods that their names is not so important, but their function is to empower and inspire and guide and motivate patients to take action, because we know that knowledge, and a lot of the people that I work with, they are very knowledgeable. But knowledge doesn't lead to results, only action leads to results. So it's really valuable that patients will have someone in their corner. And part of my title is cancer coach, even though that's a very kind of relatively new name.
Yes.
But cancer coach, basically the job is to be in your corner and to help motivate you to take productive actions, effective actions, so that you can begin to see the results that you want to showing up in your life. And in the context of cancer, these results may mean more resilience, may mean better quality of life, healthier attitude toward treatment and outcome, strengthening one's resolve to heal and will to live. These are all functions of the mind that can be worked through these vehicles: Skype, Google Hangout, over the phone, whichever way that you will allow me to help. I will be very fortunate to be able to offer you that, because I think it's a must. And there's a tremendous challenge for survivors, for example, and there's millions of survivors nowadays because more life-saving treatments are available. And so when a survivor transitions from being a patient to a survivor and back into being a person, the infrastructure isn't there for them to get the support they need. So someone like me, and there's others, offer survivors as well as patients, but offer them the path or the infrastructure or the means to maintain and achieve better health and wellness goals.
I've actually tried EFT, and I couldn't believe how powerful it was.
It's wonderful. So the way to think about EFT is like emotional acupuncture or mindful acupressure, and it's so we utilize a system that was there for thousands of years that is kind of imported from Chinese medicine, but instead of needles, we use gentle tapping on certain points of the body. And, you don't have to understand the mechanism of how it works, because that is quite complex. But you can really benefit from this vehicle in the same way that you don't have to understand how the engine of the car works, but you can benefit from riding a car.
Right.
It's very easy to learn how to drive, but you really, unless this is something that you find pleasurable, you don't want to take the engine apart. With EFT, you can learn it very quickly and you can apply it very effectively anywhere and anytime. And I love that technique because how many tools do we have that can be effective and at our fingertips, literally? It's fantastic.
But yes, and there's no side effects, and it's safe and easy.
Absolutely. You do need to, so there's a lot of fluff and around it, and the industry around it can be quite deceiving because like in any industry, it can be made to believe that you need many more tools than what you already have. All of this need to stop. It's a very practical tool that when you strip it down to its essence, works wonderfully 100% of the time for all the people that I've worked with personally. So it can be simplified to the point that you can learn it in 10 minutes and work with it for the rest of the time of your life. And it's wonderful. So
Yes, it is wonderful. I'm a believer.
I encourage people to take advantage of that. And guided imagery, look, people are thinking about what it means to respond to suggestions, as in hypnotherapy, as in guided imagery. But we are all suggestible. It's part of our quality as human beings. And what I mean by that is, if you've ever took your friend's advice of going shopping for clothing or in a certain store or eating in a certain restaurant, your friends gave you a suggestion. This restaurant was great. Go and try it out. And this is exactly what we've done. We took a suggestion and we acted upon it with guided imagery, self-hypnosis, hypnosis. This is exactly the ability that is built in that we're utilizing, but just to promote defined goals, desired goals that will improve our state of being. So that's why these methods work, because they utilize a mechanism that is already at work within us. And it's just fantastic that it's available to us. And, if you don't think that you can do it on your own because you don't want to read a script to yourself, there are a tremendous amount of products out there. On my website, you can find many products, but I'm not the only one. There's very skillful practitioners out there that have created their own program, and I highly recommend it because we have the science to prove that they are effective. These products are effective. This process is effective. And when we talk specifically about surgery, it's there's ample studies that demonstrate that when you are prepared mentally and emotionally for surgery, there's less loss of blood, and your healing period, recovery period is shortened sometimes by 9 days, and it's all measured. Wow. And it's fantastic. So I really encourage people to explore what works for them and find out how to make it work for them. And if they need a practitioner, there are a variety of practitioners out there. Find someone that you can ask any question, that you can have rapport with, that what they tell you resonates with you to the core, so that you can trust them, because without it, the likelihood of their service being effective is limited. So find someone and work with them. Invest in this preparation of your mental and emotional, or cultivation of this emotional and mental realm, because who you are is the very source. When you talk about the mind being an ally, the mind is your ally. You can go to treatment, but if your mind is not aligned with the goals of treatment, it will make treatment less effective. It will interfere. It will not embrace many blessings of medicine just as much. You should first and foremost, and we should be very clear about that, you should first and foremost go to make sure that your body is intact. The medical profession, that's what it's designed to do. The crisis of cancer is in the body. You should take care of the body first. Then, at the same time, at the same breath, make sure you do not neglect yourself.
Yeah, so your treatment works with the mainstream medical treatment.
Absolutely. And it's not an alternative. This word alternative is just very deceiving. There is no alternative to mainstream cancer care. And why would you want to necessarily just dismiss all these technological advancements? Are all treatments good? No. Is everything that is offered valuable? No. And you should kind of think for yourself, become independent, an independent thinker about what is right for you as a person in terms of treatment. Do not be intimidated by these doctors and their data and their demeanor. Do not. They are just people like you. They're wearing white coats. They deserve respect for what they do, but they should not define for you what is right for you or to you. So I encourage people to combine these two approaches, the conventional and non-conventional, and or holistic, or whatever you want to call it, complementary. And I've seen my clients benefit the most when they combine the two approaches together.
So be your own advocate.
Absolutely. And, Bernie Siegel, in his book, Love, Medicine, and Miracle, a long time ago, wrote about what he used to call exceptional patients. And exceptional patients he defined as people who did not just take things face value. They stood up for themselves. They inquired more until they got the answers that they needed and until they got the information that they needed in order to make an informed decision. So this is very valuable. Be your own advocate, and if you think you need support, bring someone with you, and do not be intimidated in any way.
Nice. That's really great advice. How does your treatment differ from psychotherapy and other therapies that are focused on the psychological realm?
Sure. So the main difference would be that psychotherapy and other conventional form of emotional therapy focuses mostly or engages mostly the conscious mind, the part of the mind we call the conscious mind. Hypnosis addresses or engages primarily the subconscious mind. So based on this difference alone, we're talking about two different approaches. Psychotherapy in its conventional form is a long-term intervention or approach, and sometimes it can take years. My process is a very short-term, goal-oriented process that affects real change in real time. So in therapy per se, you can see the long-term benefit after many sessions. This process, which I'm working with, which I call in my book Immersive Healing, but the title doesn't really matter so much. This process is a very structured process. It's got a very defined beginning, middle, and end. So within these 5 sessions, we are covering a certain amount of ground. And on the other side of these 5 sessions, which can be practiced once a week, you are in a different place. And so it's, especially when time is of the essence, when illness is upon us and time is of the essence, you want a method that will be effective and practical and that will promote change in real time. I would think that these are the main difference. Perhaps the last one, but not less meaningful, is the fact that in therapy, per se, you are the observer. In other words, you talk about your experience, and that puts you kind of outside of that experience, and you can get in and out of that. In hypnosis, you are immersed, and that's where the name Immersive Healing really came from. You become immersed in your experience so that you kind of move into this inner realm and you become immersed in your own story in the same way that you become immersed in a good book or a good movie. It's as if you're there, and right there is right here and right now. And why this is meaningful? It is meaningful or important because then there is a level of authenticity. When you are back there and back there is right here and right now, it feels real, authentic. And without authenticity, there is no transformation. So the very goal of this process is to utilize the mind to revive the functioning of the immune system. There would be no transformation without the sense of authenticity, without it being real for you, felt real for you. And so there's a series of differences between therapy and hypnotherapy, but more specifically between psychotherapy and this process called immersive healing. There are other differences, but these are just nuts and bolts. The idea is that it's a different approach and different mechanism, different vehicle to promote change.
So your conscious mind can't really edit the experiences with hypnotherapy. So you're really getting to the root.
That's right. So the conscious mind can only report about these. So how do you think about this? How do you feel? Those will be a therapist question. How does that make you feel? How does that make you think? They're kind of inviting you to be the observer. In hypnosis, we bypass the critical faculty of the conscious mind because we have to kind of sneak behind it in order to because it's guarding the subconscious mind.
Right.
And so we have to kind of bypass this critiquing faculty of the conscious mind and tap into the subconscious mind and its ability to promote change. It's the part of the mind that not only harbor our beliefs and perceptions and knowledge and everything else, it is also the part of the mind that governs many of our bodily functions that we're not very conscious of, whether it's breathing, bodily temperature, digestion system. These are all functions that are happening without our conscious intervention. And part of this intervention, or part of the ability of the subconscious mind, is also to influence immune function. And that's why it is so vital that if you want to get your immune system to work better, you have to tap into, find it on the right shelf, and tap into the subconscious mind to promote a better functioning.
Wow, it's really great that we have a tool to get to that unconscious mind.
I think we are very fortunate to live in a day and age where we have not only the theory, but also the evidence and the technology together.
Wow. So who is the ideal client? Do you think it's right for everybody?
That's a great question. My ideal clients are people who really sincerely wish to leave no stone unturned. They're kind of type A personality. They tend to be more proactive, and not to sit idle, kind of let their doctor decide their fate. They want to take charge and be in charge of their destiny, their life, their experience. And it's people who understand that science and medicine is really not, they don't have all the facts. It's not a written and done story. They don't have all the details. So these are these exceptional patients, people who wish to really kind of take ownership and be in control of the process.
So maybe they're eating the foods they're supposed to, and they're taking great supplements, but they want to see if there's more they can do.
But intuitively, they already know there's more to it because they've been doing the things that they are supposed to do, and the results are still not
exactly.
So they know intuitively there's more to it, and they do. They do want to leave no stone unturned, and they decide to take action. And I'm one of those paths that they can take. I'm their action plan, if you will, and it's just to happen to be very effective when you come in with this mindset.
I see.
Yeah,
I see. So, how are the medical doctors receiving this treatment in the mainstream?
Well, they don't. they do and they don't. They really have a love and hate relationship with this because, again, it's not measured by their model, so it doesn't fit into their paradigm, and it's problematic because on the one hand they understand and they will be the first to tell you that stress is problematic for the immune system, but they will not necessarily tell you what to do about it except for meditating or breathing, which, to be politely and yet frankly, is very difficult to do when you are with the illness. It's very hard to do, very difficult to stop your mind and kind of let your mind settle down because your mind was hijacked by other thoughts, other fears.
So I wouldn't think medical doctors would tell someone not to engage in your services because it really doesn't affect what they're doing, but they probably wouldn't give any credit if recovery was sped up and there was good results for this reason.
They would not necessarily recommend this kind of treatment. They may not comment on this and they may kind of turn a blind eye, but they will not necessarily recommend it simply because it doesn't fit into the model, and they can be liable for kind of directing you in any other way. More and more doctors are working within certain groups of referrals. Mm-hmm. And so if they kind of send you outside of that group,
yes,
it's frowned upon.
So that's why, as a patient, you need to be an advocate and seek out these services.
Correct. Exactly. Absolutely.
And let's talk about the treatment course. What is that like?
So I work within an hour and a half building blocks. And so sessions run for an hour and a half. And I ask people to keep in mind 5 building blocks of this hour and a half. But eventually what happens is that we create these back-to-back sessions. So a session is a 3-hour session, and we have 2 of those, and then another session of an hour and a half. This allows us to cover that ground. As I mentioned, this process has a very defined beginning, middle, and end. And in between beginning and end, there are very specific therapeutic intersections we have to cross. And we have to cross the first one successfully before we move on to the next. And there are certain goals that we have to achieve during this process, and we want to make sure that we achieve them. And it allows patient to kind of allow the mind of patients to identify a situation, moment in time, where these limiting thought patterns were formed, when trauma was inflicted, when loss happened, and then really go through the process, identify this moment in time, then find the emotions that are trapped within it and release them, and then do some forgiveness, both with the offender as well as with ourselves. And then there is kind of a simulation of the wisdom back into the future time. And it goes on and on through these different cycles, and then through these different realms. And each person really have a different life story. So the story can be different and the journey can be slightly different, but these structures are in place. So we know where we need to go, but in between beginning and the first therapeutic intersection, it's all unknown based on the client. So it's quite remarkable what comes up and where the mind goes and how far back the mind goes. It's just remarkable. Sometimes it can be all the way down to birth. And it's just unbelievable that all this information is present. We have grown, we have moved on, perhaps it's not even kind of in our conscious awareness, but everything that has ever happened to us still affect every aspect of our life.
So can some of these events occur later in life also, or is it usually early childhood?
So what we call the initial sensitizing event can be a very benign childhood event. So when we talk about, so let me give you an example from the food world, because everybody understands food. So, and let's take obesity, right? Let's take being overweight. And so you have a child who, when he or she grew up, heard the statement, you better finish off your food because there's kids hungry in whatever country. Have you ever heard that?
Yes.
Everybody heard that. I don't know why, but everybody heard that. And but here's the thing. So as an adult, you understand that the caretaker is trying to bestow appreciation for the food that you have on your plate, because not everybody is just as fortunate. And it's true, there are kids hungry in some other places. But as a child, it's not really what you hear at all, because if you haven't traveled abroad, the very notion of another country we don't have that. It's not in place. We
exactly
can't really understand what another country is. And then if you've never been hungry, and I mean really hungry, then you really don't understand what being hungry is all about. Why would it be something else than what I feel right now? And so that's very challenging. And the child hears something completely different. It doesn't hear, you're very fortunate. It hears this. So as kids, obviously, we want to please and receive more love. As Anthony Robbins used to say, we move away from pain toward pleasure. We want to have more love in our life because that is associated with pleasure. So the child here, if I'll do what the caretaker is asking me to do, I will get more love. And everything we do in life is either to get more love or compensate for the lack of it.
Right.
And so guess what? In that moment, when this condition was placed upon that child, an association was formed between eating everything on the plate and receiving love or recognition, or, oh, you're such a good boy, you're such a good girl, something like that. It can be as simple and as innocent as that. So that will be the seed. Now, you can take any seed and plant it in the ground, but and nothing would happen. The seed needs the right environment to grow. So life events kind of compound this original perception or association between food and love in the same way that you provide nourishment to the seed and water the seed. So when the seed has the right soil around it and the right amount of water to make it grow, it will grow. And so,
if that message is reinforced, right?
exactly. And so we call these subsequent sensitizing events that keeps compounding the original idea to the point where you now have an eating disorder of some sort because you want to get more love and you want to be in control of it and you want to have more. And so when this person is growing up, the association is only getting stronger and stronger. And eventually you get people who are tremendously overweight because for them, for their mind, food means love. And that's all they want in their lives. They just want to have more love, but they're trying to feed the void in their heart by shoving food down into their stomach. It doesn't work, and because you're not feeding the right place. So the point is, with cancer, it can be with any illness in that respect. This is also as such. But I want to make sure that people understand that illness isn't a form of punishment, even though it can easily be perceived as such. From my perspective, and in my practice, illness is really a call for us to take action, a call for us to begin to live more authentically and more aligned with our true core values. And when we begin to do that, our life becomes much more whole, and we become more healthy. And when you think about illness and the physical symptoms that it displays, what are physical symptoms? You have to question what's beneath. So in my realm, physical symptoms are the tangible evidence of what's really going on in your mind. How else would you know what's going on in your mind? So there's no x-ray. I mean, how would you know when something isn't working? There's no x-ray machine that will show you that you have a limiting thought pattern. There's no, no test.
I see. Right.
So what the mind does is it's communicating to us via the physical body.
So it's a wake-up call to stop, examine,
yes,
and see what we need to do.
True, and that's what illness does. It shuts you down. It forces you into bed. It forces you into care. It forces you to kind of withdraw from your everyday routine and be in one place so that you are forced to begin to have this examination going. And it's a healthy one, even though the condition that aggravated it is illness. The process is healthy. And
exactly.
So if we want to begin to look at illness from a different perspective, we can begin to have a different relationship with what we're going through and find the capacity within us to shift from perceiving treatment as dangerous and difficult and painful to something completely different, something perhaps more positive. And so then we can begin to embrace the benefit of treatment and just affect the outcome. That's the bottom line.
Yes, and it's really great to educate people about the power of the mind and its role in health, because I think we need a lot more awareness in that area.
We need a lot more awareness. In fact, so I offer people half an hour free consultation, which for the most part, turns into a 45 minutes or sometime an hour consultation because people have a lot of questions and they need to know and they need to feel safe and have the information before they can make any informed decision. So I think at least I see my role is not only as a practitioner, but is also as an educator. And I think it's just as important.
Absolutely. So people can come to your Boston location for your immune enhancement boot camp.
Correct.
And then they can also find you online. Correct.
They can find me online, over the phone. My website is avinoamlerner.com, and in whichever way I can be of support to them, that'll be great. My book, The New Cancer Paradigm, is a great source of information that can help people learn about this process called Immersive Healing. It's called The New Cancer Paradigm, Mobilize Your Mind to Heal Your Body. And it's available on Amazon, on my website, and it's a great starting point. And if someone is ready to kind of ask questions to learn more, I'm happy to schedule free consultations, and it's just as easy as that.
That's wonderful. That's wonderful. It's great that you're willing to help, and I think this was great information to get out to people so they understand this option that's really necessary in healing. And it's just a wonderful tool. Very exciting.
Thank you. I appreciate it. I welcome any opportunity to talk about it and share what I know, because I think we have not been taught how valuable we are to ourselves. We have not been taught to develop a healthy relationship with ourselves. And in fact, in the privacy of our own mind, it is likely that we're having terrible conversations with ourselves, especially when illness is the framework for this thought process. We need better education, and we need better tools in order to be able to cope and thrive.
And we seem to move so fast in this culture. And we just keep working harder, and we never stop and examine our health and our relationship with ourselves. And I think cancer forces you to do that.
It does. It does. And, I think we need someone in our corner, someone like a coach. And when people say, well, why would I hire a coach? And I tell them, you hire a coach not because you don't know what you need to do. It is likely that you have read everything there is to read and you are well informed. But you hire a coach because you want someone in your corner who has the tools, the skills, and the experience to help you do the things that you know are right for you. To make sure.
Yeah, I think a lot of people are overwhelmed also. It's very overwhelming, and there's a lot of areas to look at, from nutrition to supplements to yoga there's many different things, and then all the conventional treatments, and people aren't sure which way to turn.
I understand. And so that's why these consultations are so very valuable, because it really does provide people information, and there's no strings attached. It's just to make sure that you got the information that you need. I trust people to make the right decisions about them. It's not whether or not they come to work with me, but rather whether or not they have the information they need to make a smart and informed decision about their care. That's all there is to it.
Yes, that's really amazing. And the more someone's involved in their own care, the better the outcome.
I believe so. It's empowering, it's inspiring, it's promoting a sense of control and wellness and mastery, and that's basically where it is.
Yes. Well, wonderful. It was really great speaking with you today. I think everybody learned a lot.
Thank you, Debbie.
And I hope that people can really utilize services as everything you have to offer. And it was really wonderful to learn about all your services today. Thank you so much.
You're welcome, Debbie. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for joining us on the Beat Cancer Answer. If you learned just one thing today about how to prevent, cope with, or beat cancer, then we have succeeded in our mission. For more information or assistance, visit our website at BeatCancer.Org. Remember to sign up for our educational email series and get your free gift. Join in the conversation on Facebook, Twitter, or Google+, where you can meet others who think just like you. We appreciate all of your feedback and love your suggestions. Please also remember to rate us on iTunes. Your positive ratings help us to get discovered so we can save more lives. Thank you again for listening, and best wishes for good health from all of us at BeatCancer.Org.